Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new video with me, Sherman. Today guys, I'm going to be showing off my new Paladin build that I made. It is a Paladin of Glory is what it's called, and the reason for that is I'm a huge fan of D&D, the pen and paper, and the idea came to me when I was playing him and I was working on getting him up a level. I was like, he's going to be he's going to be an arrogant Paladin. So I didn't want any companions, so the way I set him up, and I'll go through all the stuff, the stats, the skills, the gear, all that in a second, but I just want you to know that there's a reason why I built him the way I did. Somebody requested this build and asked me to put it out, and I was like, okay, I'll do it, and this is what I came up with, so I hope you guys like it. Let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the build. So starting with the character screen, we have 4 into strength, 2 into intellect, and 1 into charisma. It doesn't look like he's too powerful, but trust me, this guy's a beast on the battlefield. So the 4 into strength, the reason for that is the higher weapon damage. You want that high weapon damage for when you're fighting, especially when you're on the other bar, because you have 2 toolbars and you can switch using, I don't remember what the key is. Initially I changed mine, I think it's the middle mouse button, but I changed mine to the tilde key. It's next to the 1 key, and so you can see I have a 2-handed weapon on the offhand, or on the other bar, and then I have on my main bar, which is what I'm on most of the time, I have a 1-handed and shield, and it works out really well. I have a 60% armor with 48% resistance. I have 70 physical damage absorption and 10 magic absorption, so I can't absorb as much damage, magic damage, as I can physical, but I do have a workaround for that, and that is the anti-magic shield, which I do keep up quite a bit. So we're going to go ahead and go over the equipment. Starting with the armor set, we are using the Holy Paladin set. Now I have it ascended to its first tier. I haven't ascended it fully yet because that takes a long time. But as you can see, it has a 5-piece bonus. The 2-piece gives you a 120-second cooldown on your Divine Weapon, and you're going to be using Divine Weapon a lot on this character. So you're going to have that up. You're going to have that going every chance you can get. And you can see your Paladin seal also lasts 60 seconds with the 2-piece bonus. Now with the 5-piece bonus, your Paladin seal casting throws Holy Hammers to enemies around you. And because we have our Holy Hammers upgraded, they kind of like shoot out like a star in front of you, and you'll see a bunch of hammers go out and hit multiple targets. It's really, really awesome. So great set. Because it is ascended, you can see it has 8% armor, the 72 plus 72% holy damage. It has knock resist, which doesn't upgrade yet. I don't know if it does with other ascensions. The health upgraded, the stamina upgraded, the mana upgraded, and the melee damage upgraded when I upgraded it. And then of course you get 4% magic resistance for each piece of the holy armor you have equipped. Now on my holy armor, I went with the 2% crit chance, 1% plus 1% movement speed, and the plus 3% attack and cast speed. This is done through patching through leather armor, and I put the blue dragon or blue leather on there, mythic leather or whatever. It takes 8 of them per piece. I have every one of them upgraded, so I have that on there. And then I also have 100 health on there. And I have my armor hardened as well to its maximum, so I get a lot of physical damage absorption. I get 2% armor on all the pieces of gear I have. This was my last piece I upgraded, so that's why the armor is offset from the crit. And then you can see I have the 100 health, and I have the 100 health on all the pieces. So I do not have any of my jewelry upgraded yet, but I am wearing the Metropolitan set. So this is the Holy set. You get this from doing the Epic quest line for the monastery. If you're with the monastery order, you can get that. Now I did do the Warriors Guild because I did use the Warrior Sword for a little while, and I still actually have it in my inventory here, because I use it when I go into to caves and stuff. I'll use the astral fire, and I'll use the King's Sword. Both really good weapons, by the way, or good items to have for if you're going into dark caverns. Great to have for that. Alright, so I do have the 3-piece of the jewelry here. Now, my cape and trinket are some unique items. I have the cape of concentrated power, and the reason I went with this instead of the Metropolitan one, even though the Metropolitan one does give me a higher magic on it, holy magic, this gives me 100% melee damage and range damage. So I wanted that higher melee damage because it would work better for me. And as you can see, it definitely works out. And then, of course, I also have my the Adornment of Glory. Now, both these items come from the Poisonous Dungeon and the Poisonous Swamp. So you have to run that if you want to get these. You can get this to drop during expeditions, though. It's just kind of not like you get it every time. It's a random thing, so you might have a chance at getting one of these. I just prefer to do the Poisonous Dungeon to get it, and to get this, because this adds plus 5% crit chance and a plus 25% melee damage. Now, this armor doesn't give you an extra crit chance like a lot of other armors does, and it's fine that it doesn't, because you crit a lot and your abilities are just insanely overpowered anyways. Okay, going on to the next, we have the Living Light Piercer set. I only have it at stage 1 on the sword and shield, and then I have the Heavy Light Piercer two-handed sword. This is also a living weapon. So these are the living weapons. You get these by going into the northern lands or northern kingdom, and you can get them here at the Temple of the Living Weapons. And really, really good for the Paladin, especially the sword and shield. Best sword and shield set in the game for a Paladin to use. And that's because it gives you plus 100% holy spell damage, and it gives you the 400 health and stamina and magic, or health and stamina, and then it gives you the 100% melee damage on the shield, which is astronomically well done. And then you get the 15% magic resistance. And that is our equipment. Now I'm going to go over the skills next, and we're going to just talk about why I have these ones maxed out. So I have Ferocity, Combat Mastery, Blood Magic, Holy Magic, Defense, and Speech. You technically don't need Blood Magic. You could probably go with some other stuff if you wanted to. I like using the Blood Magic with this build because, like I said, he's kind of an arrogant Paladin. And I treat it like as a thing. Like anytime I deal damage, I'm drawing not their life force, but the gods are healing me when I'm slaying creatures. So I just treat it like that instead of like it's an evil magic. And in here with the blood magic, actually before I do that, we have max defense. We also have max speech, and of course max holy magic. You want to max all these out, and I'm going to go through each of them now. So Ferocity, for each point you put in here, it increases your melee damage by 1%, and it also increases your crit chance by 1% for each point you put in here. And if you put into these this, you'll end up with a 5 or an 8% crit chance, is what it says. But you actually end up with because this turns into 5%. You end up with 8% in total. So really, really important to know that. You also gain plus 84% melee damage if you max out this as well. And this is here. You'll get that. Now, I do have both the two-handed and one-handed weapons maxed out because this increases your weapon damage by 30%, your attack speed by 20%, and your crit chance with two-handed by 4%. And then over here I have this upgraded. Increases your weapon damage by 21, your attack speed by 15, and your crit chance by 3% for one-handed weapons. Now, going over the abilities, I do have Powerful Strike equipped. I have this on my sword and shield bar only, and that's because one-handed swords and daggers deal 625% more damage with this ability, so I keep this on my number 1 key. Next up, we have Charge level 2. This, you jump forward, you slam on the ground, and you do a really powerful jump damage, or a lot of damage. But you're invincible because we have the level 2. You are invincible during the jump, so you take no damage. Really great for that. Next up, we have War Screen. Now, this lasts for 10 seconds, and it boosts your weapon damage. So I'm going to show you what it does here. I'm going to go ahead and activate it. It increases your melee damage by 50%. So when you're on that second weapon, your two-handed, you want that higher weapon damage to be just insane. Because you will have your Paladin buff, your Paladin seal going as well. And we'll talk about that one when we get to the Holy Magic. Next up, we have Whirlwind. This is an AoE that you can do, and it hits all enemies in a circle around you. And since we have it upgraded, it increases the radius of it, and you do a lot of damage to enemies around you. So just remember that. It's like, I don't know, just a lot of damage. And you hit all the enemies. So it's really good, especially on a two-handed. So that's why on my two-handed I have Enchant Weapon, I have Light Element, I have the Charge, the Whirlwind, War Screen, Divine Weapons, and I have Enchant Shield here as well, but there's a reason for that, and I'll get to that when I show off the other bar. So moving on now to Combat Mastery. Over here, you want to fill in magic completely and passives. You just want to go up the rend. You want to go up the precise strikes and the fencing. You want to max these ones out. You don't want to take dual wielding because you're not going to use it. But get those ones unlocked because armor piercing applies a debuff to the enemy that makes them take more damage and reduces their movement speed by 20, or their attack speed and movement speed by 20%. And so every time you apply the armor piercing effect, it increases your damage output by a lot. So each attack or arrow shot with 33% chance to apply stacking, it's a 1% damage reduction, increased damage that they receive for each stack of this you put on them. So always keep this applied. This increases your piercing, your final attack in a combo deals an additional 100% armor piercing effect with a 100% chance. And armor piercing, what that does is each next attack melee combo deals 5% increased damage. So you want to upgrade this to its maximum so you get that intense damage output when you're doing this. And then, of course, with the piercing strikes, you get that higher piercing advantage. The rend increases your bleed damage by 20%, and it or gives you a bleed that bleeds for 20% of your weapon damage to the enemy for each attack. That will deal 20% of your damage each 2 seconds for 10 seconds. So just really want to keep that up. With the enchant weapon, we're using light, so it has a chance to deal additional holy damage, and it increases your damage against undead. Comes out great, especially in some of the expeditions and other things. Great tool to have. And then when you upgrade it, you get a cleave attack that deals 50% of your main hand damage, and it scales with 50% of or scales with your melee and magic damage bonuses. Now, the thing you have to understand about this ability is when you have your buff active, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, you can't also use the ability to do like an attack, and it'll send out a shockwave, and then it's got to recharge before you can do it again. So it's a cool thing for people to know. This is an attack as well. Then it deals melee or magic damage, whichever is higher. And then we have Summon Weapon. And this basically summons a rotating sword that spins around you in the spot where you spawn it. So it'll only stay in the spot where you spawn it, but it'll hit all enemies around you, and it does damage for 10 seconds. The sword deals the same amount of damage as you have main hand weapon damage, and with your melee damage bonuses. So the more you increase your melee damage, the more damage this does. Now, I have this on my second bar, where I have my sword and shield stuff, and I have it there because I have my Paladin seal there, and it increases my weapon damage by 186%, so it makes this a lot stronger. Alright, now we're going to go down here to Blood Magic. Blood Magic, you just go up the passive side. Don't get the leeches. These you don't need when you're playing this. You just want to get the bloody attacks maxed out. You want to get the Hunger for Blood, and you want to get the Blood Frenzy. The reason for that is you can see here, each attack or ranged attack has a basic 10% chance to restore 4% of your health. the amount healed is restricted with 20 heals per minute. And then you go up here and it increases to 6% of your health, and then up here it's 8% of your health. It's always 10% though. But if you have the hunger for blood, it increases the attack and movement speed, your attack and movement speed, by 5% for each enemy near you, and it applies after attacking the enemy. So if you have this effect on you, you get a 5% increase in movement speed and attack speed, and it does stack. Then we have Blood Frenzy, and this increases your chance for bloody attacks triggering by 20%. So when you think about 20% and 10%, that's a 30% chance for each enemy you hit that you'll get a bloody attack, and it'll heal you for 8% of your health. It's a great way to keep that incoming healing while you're in combat, so you're not having to cast a heal or something on yourself, or use a potion, or use food and stuff. I very rarely use them, so... Next up, defensive skill. You're going to want to max this tree out. With the shield block, this gives you a way to block melee and range damage in front of you. Your block can be broke if knock power of enemy attack is bigger than your knock resistance. And then you have this as well. While held down, allows you to trigger to block melee and range damage in front of you. But it increases your knock resistance while you have it held, so it makes it a lot harder for them to knock you out of it, and it just makes you a permanent meat shield. It's insane. And I slot it into the block button because it stays up then, as long as you're holding the button. Next up, Shield Bash, really great skill. It basically hits enemies in front of you, dealing a huge amount of damage. And it has a high knock effect, and then the damage depends on the basic strength of your player. That's why I have a 4 strength, is because it scales off of that. And then at max level, it allows you to reflect enemy projectiles back to enemies, and if you use this ability anytime. So when you activate it, you'll get a little thing up here in the corner that says, oh, it's not going to show it because I didn't hit any enemies. But if you use it and you hit enemies, it reflects the damage back, projectiles back to your enemies, and it makes you basically immune to them. So it's really good to have that. Next up, we have Enchant Shield, and as you can see here with the light, it heals a player for 30% of the damage dealt. So anytime you deal damage, and it's pretty much anytime you deal damage with either your sword attack or your shield bash, you will heal for 30% of the damage dealt. It's pretty insane. And then we have our anti-magic shield, which applies a enchant on the shield that allows you to block magical damage as long as you're blocking. I keep this up all the time. That's why I have it on my sword and shield bar. And then we have the survivability, which increases your health by another 60%. And then for each point into this tree, you get another, or gives you 5 hit points for each point in here. That's why we have 140 health, because with blood magic, for each point in there, you get health. And then in here, each point you put in this, you get health. So you get a lot of health out of this. We also have the invulnerability, which passive increases knock resistance by 3. We have the mastery skill Defense Master, passive, give additional power to Shield Bash and increase your total health by 30%. You don't even have to have a shield equipped to get the health bonus, but I will tell you that 30% Shield Bash bonus is insane. Moving on, we have Holy Magic. We have this just completely maxed out. Everything except for the weak healing. And you can get this if you want, but I never used it. Like, the whole time I was playing the game, I did not use it once. So I just took it off when I upgraded my gear and everything and reset my spec. So, but yeah, max it out. You want to get this totally maxed out, so this will give you a higher power of the light. It gives you higher holy magic by 70% when it's maxed out. And then when you add the 15 points from this, you actually end up with 85%. For some reason it only says 84, but you do get 85% increase. So, and then of course you have the divine protection here, and what it does is at this percentage it just increases your armor by 1% and your magic resist by 1%. But as you can see, the higher you go, the more it gives you that increased percentage. So at max it gives you a 3%. As you can see down here, I have 5% armor. That's another thing about the defensive tree. For each time that you put points into this, you get another point of armor. Same thing with the holy magic. For each one of these, you get 1% armor. So you end up with a +5 to armor, 5% to armor. That's why our armor value is actually kind of insane when we're on sword and shield. 60% damage reduction. It's pretty crazy. And you can look over here too. This also gives you the calculations and points of damage mitigation and stuff, so you can calculate it and everything. Really high damage mitigation there. Over in the ability side, we do have light element. This is going to be your buff that's going to give you your holy or your light in element on your weapon, and then also on your shield. So you're going to want to max this out. When you increase it to level 2, it increases your the effectiveness of it by 25%. While you have it active though, even if you just have it active like this, it does give you a health restore and a stamina restore, and it's not every 10 seconds, it's actually quicker than that. So I get 120 health every 10 seconds, plus 2 stamina. This is why I said I don't really need the blood magic. I just took it because I like to have that extra healing, but this can do just as good. It's really insane. And then on top of that, when you have it enchanted on different things, it gives you different effects. So it's really good to have this going on your weapon and your shield whenever you are in a big fight, like a boss battle, or you're doing the, you're doing the rift, or you're doing anything like that. You want to make sure you have these enchants up as much as possible. Moving on, we have our Paladin seal. Now this one, you create an explosion on the ground that knocks enemies back, and it heals you for 5% of your health, and it assigns a powerful buff to you for 30 seconds, increasing your melee damage and holy damage by 20%, and your movement speed by 10%. Now that's at the first rank, but remember, we have this. So our seal actually lasts 60 seconds, not the 30 seconds. And then at the second rank, you can see the holy damage, movement speed, and jump speed actually goes up. And then at the final one, it goes up even more. But you also get your Holy Hammer gives you double jump, and your Holy Hammer cooldown is reduced to 5 seconds while the Paladin seal is active. So don't use your Holy Hammer until you have this seal active, and you will be able to just toss them out every 5 seconds. It's really great, really powerful. And just to show you how powerful it really is, we're going to activate it, and you can see here 186 melee damage, 33% movement speed, 40% jump, 186% magic damage, and yes, it is reflected even here. 781 DPS here, and then when you do when you do the war screen, this goes to 1,065. This goes to 1,209 for the duration of these two effects. It is insane. You want to keep those up whenever you're in combat. This guy is just a powerhouse of damage. But War Scream does wear off pretty quick, so you will be casting it again before you can activate your seal. And this will, as soon as this ends, you can reactivate your Paladin seal. So just giving you a heads up there. Moving on, we have our Holy Hammer. This throws out a hammer that deals damage to 3 enemies in front of it and returns to you and deals damage on its way back. At the highest rank, it'll do damage to 5 enemies, and it does the same thing. Damages enemies on the way there and on the way back. So you can like line up enemies in a row and just throw it through them and then just wait for the hammer to come back. Most of the time, it'll have them all dead. So it's really a good tool to use. Next, we have our Judgment. This creates a beam of light from this guy that stuns enemies when it hits, and it does damage to all enemies. By the way, your Shield Bash also stuns. It's one of the reasons why I have this here set up. It works with Stunning Strike, which is an ability from the Combat Master. I don't have it set up because I don't use it, but I do use Shield Bash, and I use the other thing, and they aren't affected by it, but it does help to have that higher damage and stuff from that. Alright, so this does a lot of damage, and it's a huge area of effect. So, as you can see, it's a fairly decent size, and it will move with the targets. So, it moves around, it just doesn't sit there. Really, really good ability, or powerful ability to have. Let's go ahead and jump back in here. We're going to look at our final ability here, which is Holy Shield. This makes you invincible for 10 seconds. If you notice, I do not have it equipped. If I wanted it, I would put it right in here somewhere, but I don't use it. Like, my blocking just does enough. So I don't really use this. I would say if you're playing like a healer, this is a great one to have. I keep it just in case I run across something that I can't defeat, then I'll pop this out. Next up, we have Divine Weapons. So for 30 seconds, it gives you increased and more powerful version of your current weapon, and with increased reach and damage. This is really crazy. I use this on the two-handed bar because I want that higher damage with the two-handed, and I like the longer reach with it. And the two-handed, because it cleaves, as you can see, it swings arcs. You get a lot of swing power out of it, and with this going, this is what it looks like when you're using it. It's, as far as the blade reaches, that arc at the end reaches, it does damage. So I get into big fights with a lot of enemies. This is coming out, and I'm gonna cleave through all of them. And then last but not least, here we have the Holy. These are both mastery skills. They do cost 5 skill points to unlock, but this one is passive for the Holy Divine Weapons. When attacking with Divine Weapons and Paladin sealed a sign, each strike spawns Holy Lightning from the sky that deals 30 base holy damage to all enemies around the player. Now, here's the thing you have to understand. It says base damage. That it is increased by your holy damage, your holy magic, and by your melee damage. So it's whatever is highest between the two. Now, most of the time it's going to be your holy magic, and then other times it's going to be when your weapon damage is fully buffed from the Scream, the War Scream, and from your Paladin seal. And it does an insane amount of damage. It's like you just watch these guys getting zapped by this like holy lightning, and they just start melting. It's crazy. Alright, enough with that. Last one is Speech. Now, Speech, I don't put anything in here because I only have a 1 charisma, but I take it for the 35 stamina and this right here, Bargain. Passive, decrease all prices by 10%. If there's an item you need from a merchant, and with a 1 charisma, they're kind of expensive.
You looking to buy?
But when you have a low charisma, you want that 10% reduced cost, things practically become super dirt cheap. And a lot of the stuff I use, like my food and my milk and things like that, like you see here, I buy these. I do produce them at my farms, but I also just buy them because it's a lot easier. I forgot to get cows in here. But yeah, and it just works out a lot easier for me to just go buy it. I mean, I'm not hurting for cash, as you can see, and this is the like gold I've been working on since the beginning. Besides buying the armor and the weapons and stuff like that, everything else I've earned myself. I haven't bought anything until recently when I bought this stack of 60 meat and I bought 30 milk. And I was like, oh, well, I don't need to worry about really producing a lot of it, but I'll still do that. So I have it there at my house where if I do need to cook something, I can do that. And with the remainder of these points, I mean, you have 11 points left over. You'll have a lot more because I'm only 77. So 78, 79, 80, I'll get 6 more points. So I could max out my cooking and my enchanting with what points I'll have left, and then I'll have a few more points. I could just throw it into alchemy if I wanted to or something, you know, just to be able to craft potions. Or I might take my potions up to 6 or whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go into cooking, take my cooking up to where I have this unlocked, baked tenders. I don't really need dragon meat unlocked because I know a recipe for dragon meat that I can do. And then I can max out my enchanting, so I can make the arcane enhancements, which are needed to upgrade your jewelry, enchant your jewelry. So I could enchant my jewelry then, and I wouldn't have to worry. I could do that because I'd have all the skill points left over. And pretty much, I think that's it. I mean, that's the skills I have unlocked and everything. And the way I have my toolbar here set up is I have my judgment, I have my summoned weapon. This does a lot of damage when the seal is up because it gets that extra damage. I have powerful strikes, I have the holy hammer, shield bash, paladin seal, and anti-magic shield. The reason for the anti-magic is you don't realize how many enemies you fight that use that. And this is what it looks like when you have block up. And it is... the only thing it does is when you get hit, it uses some of your stamina. And that's the other reason why I like to have such a high stamina pool. 400's great for this. 640 mana, you're not using a lot of magic. And when you do, you can just replenish it with milk or strong potions. So, a lot of health. We want that health, trust me. 400 stamina really helps out, especially with the blocking and everything. But it really depends on what you're fighting. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the Paladin of Glory. They don't require companions because you have the blood magic. I would say if you were going with another setup, I would go sword and shield on both bars. Go holy magic, combat mastery, ferocity, defense, and speech. I would probably go with 3 into strength, 2 into intellect, and probably 2 or 3 into charisma. I think you could go 3 charisma, and then that way you can have 2 companions with you. Go with something like that. Do a sword and shield. Go with kind of the same setup, but go with the cleric's cloak and get the heal. And that way you have a really good heal you can use on your allies. I probably wouldn't get the War Scream with that. Or I would if I had the mace, the King's Mace or something that gives you the increased duration of War Scream. Maybe go with something like that. But honestly, I would say go Sword and Shield. Drop Whirlwind. Put War Scream here. Maybe go with the heal also on this bar. So you have kind of like that Protector Paladin kind of thing on this bar. Or keep the War Scream here and bring your Paladin seal over here and then make your other bar more of like with the shield. Maybe put this over here, put your heal and stuff with your shield bash, so if enemies get too close you can shield bash them, and then you can keep your allies alive with the heal. It's really crazy how powerful Paladin could be. And also, if you go healer Paladin, go with this right here, the Rune of Healing. It makes your healing prayer is now instant and additionally adds healing effect for 10 seconds. So it does like a heal over time. Really great for companion use and stuff like that. And just to show, like I have 2 of those cloaks. You can also get some really cool backpacks from doing expeditions. So keep an eye out for some of those. Maybe there's one in there that you could use with this setup. I'm not sure. I like the concentrated one, the concentrated power one cloak, because it does give me that extra 100% melee and 100% range. So this is something I would say anytime you make a melee based damage dealer, you want this cloak. So but that's pretty much it. That is the Glory Paladin, or Paladin of Glory. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. And I do suggest if you do subscribe, hit that notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. This way it helps you guys out, find out when I post new stuff. I am going to be continuing to do more builds for this game, so keep an eye out for those as well. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.